very good morning. It's just past 8 this Thursday morning and we're back again with all the news on the Breakfast News. I am Nancy Kohli and over the next 1 hour we'll get you all the national, international, sports and business updates. It's a major diplomatic breakthrough for India on the global stage. The Jaish-e-Mohammed chief Masood Azhar has been designated as a global terrorist. We'll get you all of those details, analysis up ahead with our guest present in the studio this morning and all the election related news as well. But first a look at the top stories. It's a big diplomatic victory for India as dreaded terrorist and Jaish-e-Mohammed chief Masood Azhar designated a global terrorist at United Nations. Prime Minister Modi thanks the global community and all those who believe in humanitarian values for their support in designating Masood Azhar. India welcomes the Sanction Committee's decision to designate Jaish-e-Mohammed chief Masood Azhar as a UN-proscribed terrorist. The External Affairs Minister says the decision is a step in the right direction to demonstrate the international community's resolve to fight terrorism and its enablers. International community welcomes the decision to list Masood Azhar. Cabinet Secretary P.K. Sinha reviews preparedness of the states and other agencies to deal with the situation arising out of extremely severe cyclonic storm FANI, which will touch the Odisha coast on Friday. Chief Minister Naveen Patnaik reviews measures including deployment of response forces. The Indian Coast Guard and the Indian Navy deploy ships, helicopters for relief operations, while the Army and the Air Force units in Odisha, Tamil Nadu and Andhra put on a standby. Election Commission acts tough on Congress President Rahul Gandhi over his 23rd April remarks on tribals in Shahdol, issues notice to Rahul Gandhi asking him to reply within 48 hours. Election Commission cracks the whip on errant leaders, bans BJP's Bhopal nominee Sadhvi Pragya Singh Thakur from campaigning for 72 hours for her remarks on former ATS chief Hemant Karkare and the Babri Mosque demolition. Also bars Surat District's Congress President Babubhai Raika from campaigning for 3 days for the use of intemperate and abusive language. Gives a clean sheet to Prime Minister Modi's Latur speech. 15 security personnel martyred in an IED blast by Naxals in Gadchiroli in Maharashtra. Prime Minister Modi strongly condemns the attack, assures that the perpetrators of the violence will not be spared. Meghalaya government files an affidavit in the Supreme Court to call off the ongoing rescue operation since 13th December last year in the East Jaintia Hills. The move comes after all the families of the trapped miners in the coal mine have written to the state government saying they have no objection to the effort being called off. India's second lunar mission Chandrayaan-2 will be launched in the second week of July this year. The Indian Space Research Organization says that all the 3 modules of the mission are getting ready with an expected moon landing on the 6th of September this year. In international news, Sri Lankan police released the names and the pictures of 9 suicide bombers involved in the Easter Day attacks. Police said the attack was led by Zahran Qasim. The security agencies have launched a countrywide surveillance and over 160 people have been taken into custody so far. Our top story, it's a huge diplomatic win for India. The United Nations on Wednesday designated Pakistan-based Jaish-e-Mohammed chief Masood Azhar as a global terrorist after China lifted its hold on a proposal to blacklist him. Prime Minister Modi hailed the move at a rally in Rajasthan as a big success for India in the fight against the menace of terror.
Masood Azhar designated a global terrorist, a major diplomatic victory for India as China offers support on the Masood Azhar issue. China withdrew the technical hold it put in March on a resolution seeking Azhar's designation as a global terrorist. France, the UK and the US had moved the resolution in the United Nations Security Council's 1267 Al-Qaeda Sanctions Committee days after the Pulwama terror attack.
Masood Azhar ko संयुक्त राष्ट्र द्वारा आतंकवादी घोषित करने पर आखिरकार विश्व में सहमति बनी, यह संतोष का विषय है। देर आए दुरुस्त आए। आतंकवाद के खिलाफ संघर्ष में और आतंकवाद को जड़ से उखाड़ने के लिए लंबे समय से भारत जो प्रयास कर रहा था, ये उसकी बहुत बड़ी सफलता है।
Sharing the news in a tweet, India's representative at the UN, Syed Akbaruddin, said, "Big, small, all joined together. Masood Azhar designated as a terrorist in UN sanctions list. Grateful to all for their support."
I can confirm to you, just a short while ago, the chairperson of the UN Sanctions Committee, the permanent representative of Indonesia, has informed us that Masood Azhar stands designated as an individual who has been promoting terrorism globally. This is for us a significant outcome because we have been at it for several years.
In its listing, UNSC has found Masood Azhar as being associated with Al-Qaeda by participating in financing, planning and facilitating its terror activities as well as recruiting for it. It has been established that Azhar's terror outfit, Jaish-e-Mohammed, also has associations with Al-Qaeda. UNSC has already listed Jaish-e-Mohammed as a terrorist organization in October 2001.
कि वो राष्ट्र, वो देश जो पहले शायद भारत के दृष्टिकोण से या तो पूरी तरह सहमत नहीं थे या सहमत होकर के भी उन्हें स्वीकार करने में कुछ झिझक थी, भारत की आतंक के प्रति और पाकिस्तान के प्रति दृष्टिकोण को, आज वो भी इस स्थिति में है कि वो भारत के दृष्टिकोण को स्वीकार कर रहे हैं। पाकिस्तान पर इस प्रकार का दबाव है और साथ ही साथ अंतर्राष्ट्रीय स्तर पर संयुक्त राष्ट्र की ओर से इस प्रकार की घोषणा करना और इस प्रकार का लिखित में निर्णय लेना, मुझे लगता है कि भारत के लिए स्वतंत्रता के बाद एक बहुत बड़ा एक सफलता का कार्य हुआ है।
मसूद अजहर को आतंकी घोषित करना, मैं आपको एक बात बताता हूं, 2014 से पहले जब अंतर्राष्ट्रीय चौपाल लगता था तो उसके अंदर भारत को बैठने नहीं दिया जाता था। भारत बाहर खड़ा होता था और जो निर्णय होता था चौपाल के अंदर वो भारत को बतलाया जाता था। लेकिन 2019 के अंदर जब अंतर्राष्ट्रीय चौपाल लगता है तो भारत के बगैर उस चौपाल में चर्चा नहीं हो सकती। ये ताकत है भारत की आज।
Beijing said on Tuesday that the vexed issue of designating Azhar as a global terrorist by the UN will be properly resolved. China had put a hold in March on a fresh proposal by the United States, United Kingdom and France to impose a ban on the chief of the Jaish-e-Mohammed, which claimed responsibility for the deadly Pulwama terror attack. The proposal was fourth such bid at the UN in the past 10 years to list Azhar as a global terrorist. In 2009, India had moved a proposal by itself to designate Azhar. In 2016, again, India moved the proposal along with the P3, the US, the UK and France in the UN's 1267 Sanctions Committee to ban Azhar, also the mastermind of the attack on the Air Force base in Pathankot in January 2016. In 2017, the P3 nations moved a similar proposal again. However, on all occasions, China, a veto-wielding permanent member of the Security Council, blocked India's proposal from being adopted by the Sanctions Committee. A UNSC designation will subject Azhar to an assets freeze, travel ban and an arms embargo. An assets freeze under the Sanctions Committee requires that all states freeze without delay the funds and other financial assets or economic resources of the designated individuals and entities. The travel ban entails preventing the entry into or transit by all states through their territories by designated individuals. DD India.
And senior advocate Ujjwal Nikam has welcomed Masood Azhar's designation as a global terrorist. He termed it as a big success, big diplomatic win for India.
यह भारत की कूटनीति की बहुत कामयाबी है। मसूद अजहर को ग्लोबल टेररिस्ट की लिस्ट में डालने से अब पाकिस्तान को बहुत मुश्किल होगा कि ओपनली और पब्लिकली मसूद अजहर को और जैसे मोहम्मद को कोई सपोर्ट कर सके। अगर पाकिस्तान ने इस प्रकार कुछ कार्रवाई की, मसूद अजहर को कुछ सपोर्ट किया, तो मुझे लगता है कि इंटरनेशनल कम्युनिटी उस पर कड़ी सैंक्शन डाल सकती है, जिसमें पाकिस्तान को बहुत भारी कठिनाई सामना करना पड़ेगी।
And with the United Nations Security Council designating Masood Azhar as a global terrorist, the spokesperson for the United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres has expressed hope that all the member states abide by the decisions of the Sanctions Committee that has subjected the Pakistan-based Jaish-e-Mohammed chief to an arms embargo, assets freeze and the travel ban.
This is the work of a well-established mechanism through the Sanctions Committee of the Security Council. It is a big part of the United Nations work in the fight against terrorism. And I think a matter of principle, first of all, it's always good when all member states of the Security Council agree on something. And we would, of course, hope that all member states abide by those decisions.
And the international community led by the US has welcomed the designation of Pakistan-based Jaish-e-Mohammed chief Masood Azhar as a global terrorist by the UN and sought sustained actions from Islamabad against the menace of terror emanating from the country. And France, which also backed the proposal to ban Azhar, welcomed the United Nations move, saying it signals the successful realization of its efforts. In London, the UK Foreign and Commonwealth Office said the UN's designation of Azhar was a positive development for the South Asian region. And in fact, our guests present in the studio, Mr. Dayal, for the former ambassador, joining us in the studio. Thanks so very much, sir, for joining us on Doordarshan News this morning. So we'll just come back to you. Also, let's introduce our correspondent joining us from newsroom. Abhishek Jha will be with us to get more perspective on these developments, very important developments taking place. Abhishek, first coming to you, major diplomatic breakthrough for India on the global stage in China yielding to international pressure.
Surely, Nancy, this is something that took almost 10 years, ever since in 2009 when India was proposing to list Masood Azhar in United Nations list of terrorists. It has been 10 years, and most of the time China has been putting some sort of obstructions to this effect.
Right.
The last time China put a technical hold when after in the wake of Pulwama attack, when Jaish-e-Mohammed took responsibility of this attack, India through its friends in United Nations Security Council, France, United States and Britain moved this proposal to this effect of banning Masood Azhar and listing it into the list of international terrorists. But that was also withheld because China put a technical hold on this,
right.
And said that it wants to have more discussion and more evidences on that, and it wants to create some consensus. And now when the Security Council, United Nations Security Council had 14 members on board for banning Masood Azhar, China had very little option left but to agree to the consensus of United Nations Security Council. Yeah, Nancy.
Okay. All right, Abhishek, request you to please continue being with us. Let's also bring in our guests present in the studio. Mr. Dayal, major diplomatic breakthrough for India on the global stage, and after sustained negotiations by India, US, UK, France, China finally yielding into international pressure. How are you reading into these developments?
Well, first of all, I'd like to wish all your viewers very good morning, and to say that the morning has really come with good news, because Masood Azhar had caused India a lot of damage.
Yes.
He was behind the 2001 attack on our parliament. He was also the mastermind for the attacks on the Pathankot Air Force Base, on the Uri terror attacks, the Pulwama terror attacks, and a whole host of other terrorist activities directed against India. So it's a matter of great happiness that Masood Azhar has at last been labelled a global terrorist, because as you mentioned, efforts in this regard had been going on for a long time, and China had on 3 earlier occasions blocked international efforts in this direction. Now, what was different this time? Of course, it's a very major diplomatic victory. The US, the UK and France joined hands to pressurize China, and China seems to have given in. But is there something more to it than meets the eye? I asked this question, what was different this time? Pakistan is now on the grey list of the Financial Action
FATF,
Task Force. And the grey listing is hurting Pakistan quite severely. The economy of Pakistan is feeling the heat of being on the grey list. Now, when the proposal to put Masood Azhar on the list of international terrorists was put forward in the UN Sanctions Committee, China had put a technical hold.
Right.
I am given to understand that China during this period engaged in intensive negotiations with the other side, that is to say US, France and UK,
yes,
to have Pakistan taken out of the grey list. There was a lot of behind the scenes diplomacy going on.
Okay.
And I think the Chinese were trying to pressurize the other three to give in regard to their demand that Pakistan should be taken out of the grey list.
Sure.
And in return, the Chinese were prepared to give the concession that Masood Azhar could be designated a global terrorist. So I have received some reports that this sort of behind the scenes negotiations were going on.
Sure.
Now, whether this is so or not, the fact remains that we should make sure that Pakistan continues to be on the grey list.
Right.
Because by designating Masood Azhar as a global terrorist, certainly the spotlight is on Pakistan. His activities will be curtailed to some extent, though not fully, because if you recall, Hafiz Saeed was designated a global terrorist, but he moves around freely in Pakistan. Being designated a global terrorist will mean certain things. Firstly, that Masood Azhar will not be able to travel abroad.
Right.
But if he travels abroad, that will be foolish on his part. In all likelihood, he could get arrested. The second restriction is that
the arms
international
embargo,
banking
freeze,
transactions cannot be undertaken by Masood Azhar. But you know, he's funded by the Pakistani agencies, particularly by the ISI. So he doesn't really need to have international
But how
assistance.
does, Mr. Dayal, what would you say, how does these latest developments complicate the matters? You mentioned ISI. How do these matters complicate the matters further for Pakistan and the ISI? And what more are you reading into these developments? China finally is changing its stand after 10 long years of sustained negotiations. You think it's because of China facing more and more embarrassment, it's defending a terrorist, it's defending an individual, or it's a tactical, a strategic move by China?
It's a tactical move by China. As I said, they have given in regard to Masood Azhar to try and get something in regard to the grey listing of Pakistan in the Financial Action Task Force. I am not inclined to think that either Pakistan or China is changing their true colors.
Okay.
Pakistan is wedded to terrorism. The ISI has its central plank to wage terrorist activities against India, and they'll be using Masood Azhar, Hafiz Saeed and a whole host of other terrorists. Now, by giving in regard to Masood Azhar, does it mean that either China or Pakistan are changing policies? I don't really think so.
Okay.
Pakistan will continue to shelter Masood Azhar to whatever extent it can, but in any case, the cadres who have been developed by Masood Azhar are still free to operate. Their names may have changed. Jaish-e-Mohammed changed its name to Tehreek-e-Furqan and to Khaddam al-Islam, and it in fact became a charity organization. The funds which were available with Jaish-e-Mohammed are now probably in some other account belonging to some other organization. So it's all being done in a very clever, very crafty manner. By designating Masood Azhar as an international terrorist, there is no doubt that the spotlight is on Pakistan. And Pakistan, in its terrorist incarnation, stands exposed before the entire world. But to expect that on ground things will change is expecting too much. I am not so optimistic. I think we have to be extremely vigilant. We have to continue to apply as much pressure on Pakistan through whatever means possible. And in particular, we have to make sure that the grey listing of Pakistan in the Financial Action Task Force should continue. Now, there is a meeting of the Financial Action Task Force which is going to take place later this month in May.
Right.
And during that meeting, this issue will come up whether Pakistan's name should be taken out of the grey list. We have to make sure that this does not happen, that Pakistan continues on the grey list. And then there is another meeting in September. So again, there will be all kinds of tricks and maneuvers which will be played to try and get Pakistan out. Again, we have to be vigilant. And in this regard, we have to make sure that the supporters of our position, like the US, UK and France, continue to realize that by merely designating Masood Azhar as a global terrorist, the battle is not yet won.
Over.
There is a long road ahead in this regard, and I would like to caution everybody not to rest on their oars. This is just a first step. It's a symbolic step. It's an important step.
Absolutely.
But nonetheless, we have to continue in our efforts to make sure that this entire game plan which has been designed by the Pakistani establishment, the ISI, and in tandem with the terrorist outfits, should be halted once and for all, and efforts in this regard should continue. We should be jubilant, we should be happy, but we should not be jumping with joy that we have overcome everything. No, this is only the first step.
So we'll come back to you. Let's also now go across to our correspondent Abhishek Jha once again. Abhishek, so the wheels have moved slowly but surely in Delhi's favor. What's your understanding of the subject, Abhishek? How is this going to complicate the matters for Pakistan and the ISI? Mr. Dayal says nothing. We can't really expect too much change in the ground realities there in the country. What's your understanding? What would you say?
See, Nancy, as far as Pakistan's face is concerned, it has acted in a very thick-skinned manner in past also. We have seen so many terrorists, starting from Osama bin Laden. He was killed in Abbottabad. And we know, as our guest was also discussing, Pakistan has been harboring a whole host of terrorist camps and terrorist training institutions across and along the borders of Afghanistan and Pakistan. And it is something that has happened over the last few decades. Initially, Pakistan sheltered these terrorists in form of mujahids, and then they become jihadists, and now they have become terrorists. So over these decades, only the name has changed, but the policy of Pakistan establishment has hardly seen any change of its stance. As far as this time is concerned, India was from the very beginning, when China has put a technical hold, it was thought that like all the past times in the last 10 years, this would again go in vain, and all the efforts of India's diplomacy worldwide will go in vain, and Masood Azhar would not be able to be listed in that international terrorist list. But Indian diplomats were quite hopeful. As we say, the diplomacy is a profession of eternal hope. So India continued its negotiation in New York, in Delhi, and in China with Chinese diplomats and international diplomats in order to bring everybody on board that in this fight against global terrorism, banning a person who has direct links with Jaish-e-Mohammed, which is already a banned organization, would surely be a step forward in this direction. And that is how, of course, there would have been some bartering parleys, as our guest was discussing, but surely as of now we see on the face of it, it looks that Indian diplomacy has been able to achieve some sort of positive landmark on this fight against global terrorism.
Sure. All right, Abhishek, request you to stay with us. Let's once again come back to Mr. Dayal. Sir, you're expressing your apprehensions as far as what will really take place in Pakistan, in Islamabad is concerned. But what would you say? Pakistan has been maintaining that it will enforce the sanctions immediately on Masood Azhar. How much would you believe the statements that are coming out of the country? It's not new for everyone to really see through what Pakistan's designs has been. What would you say?
Well, people know that Pakistan is very duplicitous in regard to matters which pertain to its policy towards India. I'm sure that during the next few months, Pakistan will give the appearance of clamping down on Masood Azhar and Jaish-e-Mohammed it has already started saying that Jaish-e-Mohammed was proscribed by Pakistan since quite a few years, and that it has been doing everything to clamp down on terrorism. But the real fact is, as I said earlier, terrorism is an intrinsic part of Pakistan's policy. It uses it against India. It uses it against Afghanistan.
So then what more can be done? Because, you know, a lot has been done and Pakistan continues to face isolation all across the world. What more needs to be done? Because it's an unprecedented historic success that's coming in, proscribing Masood Azhar as a global terrorist. What more then needs to be done according to you?
Masood Azhar is the tip of the iceberg. There's a huge terrorist machinery which lies submerged below the water. And that has to be dismantled. It can be dismantled only when the financial support which is required for terrorism is completely demolished.
Sure.
And as I said earlier, the Financial Action Task Force is an organization which acts against terrorist financing.
Sure.
And Pakistan is trying to wriggle out of its present predicament where it is on the grey list. We have to ensure that it doesn't manage to do so, that it continues to be on the grey list, because monitoring of funding for terrorist activities is something that needs to be continually pursued till it can completely be stopped. And I don't see that happening in the very near future.
Okay.
Because there are such fundamental linkages which have been established between the ISI on the one hand, which is very well funded. The ISI is an extremely well funded organization. And in turn, it funds the terrorist outfits.
Sure.
So until this structure of terrorism, which has been very, very carefully established in Pakistan over decades, can be demolished, the fact that we have been able to get Masood Azhar designated as a global terrorist might be our first step, but it should certainly not make us rest on our oars.
Sure. Okay.
Believe me, the Pakistani establishment has used terrorism as its state policy.
Yes, okay.
And I don't think leopards change their spots so easily. I think a lot of effort needs to be have to be carried out by the international community, and we have to make sure that the pressure which is being applied on Pakistan does not ease. China is Pakistan's all-weather friend,
yes.
and China certainly wants to help its friend. And there are indications that in this entire negotiation process between, as I said, US, UK, France on one side, China on the other, there has been some discussion on what to do with the question of Pakistan's grey listing in the FATF. And I think the Chinese tried to get some sort of assurances that the other side would relent. India has not been relenting in this regard. India is very clear that the grey listing of Pakistan should continue. So the task for us in the next few months is that we should continue to engage in meaningful discussions with France, US and UK to make sure that the grey listing of Pakistan continues, because the funding of terror has to be completely eliminated before Pakistan can be taken out of this present case, the path where it funds terrorism and where it uses terrorism against us and against other neighboring countries.
Absolutely. All right, sir, that's all the time we have for in this segment, but with that it's a wrap on this segment for now. Well, thanks sir and Abhishek, both of you, for joining us and sharing your inputs and perspective. Thanks very much. And let's now move on. The cyclonic storm FANI has intensified and turned into an extremely severe cyclonic storm. It will be hitting the Odisha coast on Friday with a wind speed of around 200 kilometers per hour. The Navy, Air Force and the Coast Guard have been put on a high alert to meet any eventuality. The personnel of the NDRF, the Odisha Disaster Rapid Action Force and the Fire Service have been deployed at the vulnerable areas to assist the administration. The Odisha Chief Minister Naveen Patnaik reviewed preparedness measures, including deployment of response forces. And noting that every life is precious, the Chief Minister directed the administration to evacuate all the people from the vulnerable areas. He also asked the local administrations to run free kitchens. The Odisha government has also declared holiday at the schools and colleges in the anticipation of the oncoming cyclonic storm. The Cabinet Secretary P.K. Sinha meanwhile also reviewed preparedness of the states, the central ministries and the agencies to deal with the situation arising out of the extremely severe cyclonic storm FANI. And meanwhile, railways have also cancelled 81 trains and diverted 2 more in view of the cyclone FANI, which is likely to affect 19 districts of Odisha, Andhra Pradesh and West Bengal besides Kolkata. The railway said it will grant full refund to passengers for the cancelled or diverted trains if the tickets are produced for cancellation within 3 days from the scheduled date of journey. And let's now go across to our correspondent Nitendra Singh, who is joining us from Bhubaneswar. Nitendra, good morning. The cyclonic storm, all eyes are going to be on Odisha today and tomorrow, because that's when the cyclonic storm FANI will be hitting the Odisha coast. What sort of preparations are you seeing around you? And more importantly, the camps that have been set up, evacuation process, they must be underway to shift people to safer areas, to safety places. What updates can you share with us as far as that is concerned?
अनंसी बिल्कुल लोगों को 8 लाख लोगों को इवैक्यूएट करने की टारगेट रखी गई है। उड़ीसा सरकार की तरफ से मुख्यमंत्री ने कल निर्देश दिया जब एक हाई लेवल मीटिंग ले रहे थे अधिकारियों के साथ और तमाम जितने भी कोस्टल एरिया के जो डिस्ट्रिक्ट मजिस्ट्रेट थे उनके साथ, तो 8 लाख लोगों को टारगेट रखा गया कि आज शाम तक उनको सुरक्षित स्थान पे पहुंचा दिया जाएगा। 879 साइक्लोन सेंटर हैं पूरे उड़ीसा में, खासतौर पे उन एरिया में जहां पर ये साइक्लोन बार बार आता है, तो वहां पर उनको पहुंचा दिया जाएगा। मवेशी हो, बुजुर्ग हो, महिलाएं हो और बच्चे हो, इनको प्रायोरिटी पे रखा गया है कि सबसे पहले उनको सुरक्षित स्थान पे पहुंचाया जाए। गर्भवती महिला, प्रेग्नेंट वुमेन को बोला गया कि आइडेंटिफाई करके उनको हॉस्पिटल में लाया जाए, क्योंकि अगर अगले 2-3 दिन में किसी की डिलीवरी होनी हो तो वो सेफ डिलीवरी हो सके और किसी तरह की कोई परेशानी ना हो। अभी उड़ीसा के तट से 540 किलोमीटर दूर है FANI साइक्लोन। अभी उसे सैटेलाइट से नजर रखा जा रहा है, लेकिन शाम तक वो जब मछलीपट्टनम के आसपास आएगा तो वहां से रडार से जो निगरानी रखी जाएगी और हर घंटे अपडेट मौसम विभाग को मिलेगा। उसकी जो स्पीड है और उसकी जो दिशा है, किस तरफ से बढ़ रहा है, उस पर निगरानी रखी जाएगी। विशाखापट्टनम से फिर रडार पर नजर रखी जाएगी। उसके बाद पारादीप जब उड़ीसा के पास आएगा तो पारादीप के जो रडार है उसके जरिए इस पर निगरानी रखी जाएगी। कोशिश ये है उड़ीसा सरकार की कि लोगों को ज्यादा से ज्यादा सुरक्षित स्थान पे पहुंचाया जाए, कम से कम नुकसान हो। पुरी में जितने भी टूरिस्ट है उनको आज शाम तक खाली करने का आदेश दे दिया गया है प्रशासन की तरफ से, क्योंकि पुरी के आसपास ही गोपालपुर में सबसे पहले ये कल शाम 5:30 बजे हिट करेगा जमीन से, और उसके बाद से बहुत तेज रफ्तार से 170 किलोमीटर से लेकर के 200 किलोमीटर की रफ्तार से तेज हवाएं चलेंगी और जोरदार बारिश होगा। तो निश्चित तौर पे एक कोशिश ये है कि जल्द से जल्द जो टूरिस्ट प्लेस है पूरी को वहां से हटा लिया जाए। इस वक्त की मैं बात कहूं कि उनकी FANI की एडवांस टीम, आप ये समझ सकते हैं कि उड़ीसा के तट पे आ चुका है। इस वक्त भुवनेश्वर में भी बादल छा गए हैं, मौसम में बदलाव आ गया है। अभी आधे घंटे में थोड़ी सी हवा चलने लगी है और पूरी तरीके से ठंडक हवा चलने लगी है। आज शाम से ये उम्मीद है कि यहाँ पे बारिश भी होगी। तो ये तमाम ऐसे संकेत हैं जो इस बात को इंगित करते हैं कि कल से जो भारी बारिश जब शाम से शुरू होगा तो लोग अपनी सुरक्षित जगह पे पहुंच जाएं।
All right, Nitendra, thanks very much for joining us and sharing those inputs. So all the measures are in place to meet any eventuality and to make sure that the damage that is caused, if any, is caused to the minimum extent. And right now, the cyclonic storm FANI is said to be around 540 kilometers away from the Odisha coast. And like Nitendra was mentioning, there's a change in the weather, it seems, in Odisha. It's gusty winds blowing at the moment and heavy rains that may trigger after the cyclonic storm FANI makes a landfall. That's tomorrow. So all the preparations in place there in the state of Odisha. Moving on now, the poll panel, the Election Commission of India has cracked the whip on the errant leaders. The poll panel has banned the Bhopal nominee Sadhvi Pragya Singh Thakur from campaigning for 72 hours for her remarks on the former ATS chief Hemant Karkare and the Babri Mosque demolition. The panel has strongly condemned her remarks and warned her to not repeat the misconduct in future. The Election Commission also barred the Surat district chief of the Congress from campaigning for 72 hours for using abusive language. The poll panel reprimanded him and barred him for 3 days, beginning in the late afternoon on 2nd May till the 5th of May from holding public campaign anywhere in the country. And the Election Commission has issued a show-cause notice to Congress President Rahul Gandhi for his alleged remarks that the Narendra Modi government has enacted a new law which allows tribal to be shot at. Citing his speech made in Shahdol, Madhya Pradesh on 23rd April, the Commission pointed out at a provision of the Model Code which bars unverified allegations to be levelled against the political opponents. The Congress President has been given 48 hours to respond to the notice, failing which it will take action without further reference to him. Two BJP workers had approached the Election Commission with the complaint, following which a report was sought from the MP poll authorities. And let's get in inputs on that. Our correspondent Rishi Kumar is joining us on the phone line. Rishi, the Election Commission acting tough, cracking down on the irresponsible statements they're being made by the Congress President, and tough times ahead it seems for him.
बिल्कुल जिस तरीके से इन चुनावों में मॉडल कोड ऑफ कंडक्ट को लेकर जो शिकायतें मिल रही हैं, आयोग उस पर तुरंत संज्ञान लेते हुए खास तौर से उस पर पूरी विस्तृत जानकारी लेने के बाद जो डिस्ट्रिक्ट इलेक्शन ऑफिसर हैं उनसे जानकारी लेने के बाद उसकी परीक्षण किया जाता है कि जो वक्तव्य है, जो भाषा प्रयोग की गई है वो किस एक्ट के तहत आती है, और अगर उन्हें प्रथम दृष्टया ऐसा लगता है कि इस पर एमसीसी वायलेशन है तो वो सबसे पहले शो कॉज नोटिस इशू करता है इलेक्शन कमीशन। और इसी सिलसिले में राहुल गांधी को जो नोटिस दिया गया है 48 घंटे में उन्हें ये बताना है कि उन्होंने आदिवासी कानून से संबंधित जो बातें कही हैं और उसका क्या मंतव्य है और उसको कैसे वो जस्टिफाई करते हैं। इसके बाद इलेक्शन कमीशन उसको परखेगा कि उनका जो जवाब है वो कितना जो जवाब मांगा गया था उससे मैच करता है, संतुष्ट करता है इलेक्शन कमीशन को। और उसके बाद इलेक्शन कमीशन कई बार ऐसा होता है कि वार्निंग देता है, या जिस तरीके से इन दिनों देख रहे हैं कि चुनाव आयोग एमसीसी वायलेशन को कर सीधे उनको कई घंटों के लिए, चाहे वो 48 घंटे हो, 72 घंटे हो, उनके लिए इलेक्शन कैंपेनिंग से रोक लगा देता है। इस तरीके की कार्रवाई इन चुनावों में हम देख रहे हैं। देखना होगा कि राहुल गांधी के केस में क्या होता है।
All right, Rishi, we'll keep a track of developments on that front with you. What more comes in there? Of course, tough times ahead for Rahul Gandhi. He has to file his reply within 48 hours of having served that notice by the poll panel, the Election Commission of India. And staying with news from the Election Commission, which has also served a show-cause notice on Congress leader Navjot Singh Sidhu for allegedly violating the Model Code of Conduct. He's been told to respond within 24 hours. The BJP had lodged a complaint with the Commission against Sidhu's speech in Ahmedabad on 17th April, in which he targeted Prime Minister Modi and allegedly used indecent language. The Election Commission on Wednesday concluded that Prime Minister Modi's speech in Latur last month, in which he had urged the first-time voters to dedicate their votes in the name of the Balakot airstrike heroes and the soldiers killed in the Pulwama attack, is not violative of its instructions on invoking the armed forces in the poll campaigns. Meanwhile, campaigning has been intensified for the remaining 3 phases of the Lok Sabha elections. The top leaders of all the political parties are holding rallies to garner support for their party candidates. BJP National President Amit Shah will address rallies in Madhya Pradesh and Rajasthan. Congress President Rahul Gandhi will also hold rallies in Jharkhand and Rajasthan. Delhi Chief Minister and the Aam Aadmi Party National Convener Arvind Kejriwal will participate in the roadshow of his party candidate Atishi Marlena from East Delhi today. Moving on now, 15 personnel of the quick response team of Maharashtra police attained martyrdom and a driver were killed in an improvised explosive device blast in North Gadchiroli in Maharashtra. The police team was targeted when it was headed towards the Naxal-affected Purada station. After the attack, an encounter broke out between the police and the Naxals and the entire area was cordoned off. The Maharashtra police refused to call this a premeditated attack as a case of intelligence failure. Prime Minister Modi has strongly condemned the attack and assured that the perpetrators of the violence will not be spared. Prime Minister Modi in a tweet said, and I quote, "I salute all the brave personnel. Their sacrifices will never be forgotten." And President Ramnath Kovind has also strongly condemned the attack in Gadchiroli in Maharashtra. The President in a tweet said that his thoughts and prayers are with the families of the police personnel killed. He said the entire nation stands united in the fight against such violence. And let's now go across to our correspondent Shama Mishra, who is joining us with more inputs on that. Shama, we are given to understand that the entire area has been cordoned off. Unfortunate incident that took place in which 15 security personnel were killed in that Naxal attack in Gadchiroli, Maharashtra yesterday. What's the situation there like now? What sort of security apparatus and the operation that you are seeing taking place on the ground?
Yes, Nancy, the dastardly attack that killed 15 security personnel and 1 civilian yesterday on Maharashtra Day has really shook Maharashtra, and now it's garnering all criticisms from all over. Right now the situation is really tense there, and the security has been tightened there and beefed up, because we know for the fact that Gadchiroli is situated in a location where it's all dense forest, hilly areas. It becomes an easy way for the Naxals to hide out, and becomes really difficult for the security persons who are there in the open to search them and not get targeted. And this particular attack has been one of such kind, because we know for the fact that last year such common operations were carried off by the police, and in that around 40 Naxals were killed. And this is also said that this is a comeback from their end, from the Naxals' end. However, our security personnel are now on full high alert, and like we've heard from the Chief Minister, from Rajnath Singh, and from all over, that a proper response and a befitting reply would be given to these Naxals, and hence the entire area has been cordoned off, and the search operations is currently underway, because also yesterday we heard that around 150 Naxals were there in that particular area. So it becomes a little difficult for these security personnel. Meanwhile, today we know that the DGP of Maharashtra, Subodh Jaiswal, he's in Gadchiroli already, and around 2 p.m. These security personnel, the mortal remains of the security personnel would be kept for giving tributes, and then later on would be moving to their local villages. Also, Maharashtra Chief Minister Devendra Fadnavis would be reaching there in some time, and also we have to know that the quick response team of all these personnel who were there in the particular team, 6 are from Gadchiroli itself, 3 are from Bhandara, and basically all are from the Maharashtra state itself. So really disappointing and really disheartening this particular incident, but yes, we have to look at what really happens now between the security personnel, and where do we reach in cleaning up this particular mess of Naxalites.
Sure.
Nancy.
All right, Shama, thanks for joining us and sharing those inputs. Moving on now, the Meghalaya government filed an affidavit in the Supreme Court to call off the ongoing rescue operation since 13th December last year in the East Jaintia Hills. The move came after all the families of the trapped miners in the coal mine at the East Jaintia Hills have written to the state government saying they have no objection to the effort being called off. Moving on now, all the modules are getting ready for Chandrayaan-2 launch during the window of 9 to 16 July this year, with an expected moon landing on the 6th of September. India's second lunar mission Chandrayaan-2 has 3 modules, namely Orbiter, Lander and Rover. The Orbiter and Lander modules will be interfaced mechanically and stacked together as an integrated module and accommodated inside the GSLV Mk3 launch vehicle. The Rover is housed inside the Lander. After launch into the Earth-bound orbit by GSLV, the integrated module will reach Moon orbit using Orbiter propulsion module. Subsequently, Lander will separate from the Orbiter and soft land at the predetermined site close to lunar South Pole. Further, the rover will roll out for carrying out scientific experiments on the lunar surface. Instruments are also mounted on Lander and Orbiter for carrying out scientific experiments. And in more news from around the world, the Sri Lankan police have released the names and the pictures of 9 suicide bombers involved in the Easter Day attacks that killed at least 253 people, including 42 foreigners. According to police, the attack was led by Zahran Qasim, who caused suicide blasts at the Shangri-La Hotel in Colombo. The bombers carried out attacks at 8 locations, including 3 churches and 3 5-star hotels. The police and the armed forces have launched a countrywide surveillance in the wake of the attacks, and over 160 people have been taken into custody so far. Meanwhile, President Maithripala Sirisena has said that the attacks have caused great sorrow in the hearts of all Sri Lankans and called upon to turn the tragedy into a strength to eliminate the menace of terror from the country. And time now to get you all the news from the world of business and finance with my colleague Azhar.
Well, thank you very much, Nancy. And today's the 4th trading day session, that's Thursday, and we'll move on to some important economic news. And first, we're going to talk about GST collections, which in April jumped to its highest level of rupees 1,13,865 since its rollout in 2017. While collections have been gradually increasing since August, they hit a record high last month of rupees 1 lakh crore, up from rupees 97,247 crores the previous month, on the back of high compliance and increased number of returns. The total number of GSTR 3B returns filed for the month of March up to 30th April 2019 is more than 72 lakhs. And good news for Air India passengers. Now they are able to cancel flight tickets without any charges within 24 hours from yesterday. The airline will not charge any cancellation fee within 24 hours of booking a flight ticket. The new changes in flight ticket booking have been introduced weeks after the aviation regulator DGCA issued a passenger rights charter. The charter, released in February, specified the rights of air traveller. The cancellation policy is different for different airlines and depends on many factors. The charges also vary across economy, premium and business classes. And that's all we have in this edition of Finance World. Back to Nancy for more updates.
Thanks, Anjal, for joining us. Let's now move on to sports news. In the IPL, skipper MS Dhoni's prowess in the slog overs was on display yet again, while home spinners bamboozled the Delhi Capitals batsmen as Chennai Super Kings prevailed in the IPL battle for top spot with a thumping 8-run win in Chennai on Wednesday. It was Suresh Raina who struck a fighting 59 of 37 balls to prepare the road for revival following a slow start, and Dhoni provided a late flourish, ending the innings in style with 2 sixes of Trent Bolt. Chennai Super Kings, who now sit atop the table with 18 points, are now sure to end in top 2, ensuring that they will have 2 shots at making the summit clash. And let's now move on to our next segment, the morning print, to get you a glimpse of what the national dailies are carrying this morning. We are beginning first with the news that's being carried in every national daily this morning. The major headline we have picked up the pioneer for that. Masood Azhar is global terrorist. UN tags Pakistan-based Jaish-e-Mohammed chief as ultra after China relents. And Prime Minister Modi's statement, they're also being carried, saying it's a big success for India's efforts to root out terrorism. India's voice is being heard globally. India's views cannot be ignored any longer. It has been proved. I just want to say it loud and clear that this is just the beginning. Wait for what happens next. And let's now move on to the Hindu. That's going to be our next top story today and tomorrow as well. Odisha and Andhra Pradesh brace for the FANI landfall. 8 lakh people being evacuated as storm heads towards the coast, and defence forces are also on a high alert. The educational institutions have been ordered shut, and over 8 lakh people are being evacuated as the extremely severe cyclonic storm FANI is likely to make landfall near Puri tomorrow. And with that, it's a wrap on the morning print, but let's also now check out how the weather is going to be across the country today. And with that, it's a wrap on the breakfast news at the moment. We'll be back tomorrow, same time, same place. We'll see you then. But before we go, we are taking you to Bangladesh, where surfing along the sandy beaches of Cox's Bazar has become a new attraction for the sport enthusiasts. Take a look at those visuals, and we wish you a great day ahead. Thanks for being with us.